The people in Chesterfield, particularly in those flood-hit communities in Brampton and Birdholme and on Tapton Terrace, will know that we've been pushing to get further flood alleviation works in Chesterfield to protect those communities on the River Rother and the River Hipper. We've been asking the government ministers to come up and see our resources. I'm delighted to say that today Emma Hardy will be here, the Floods and Water Minister, seeing the resource that we have at Wingworthy in my good friend Louise Jones' constituency.
Yeah, so it's really important. Obviously, Storm Babette here, a lot of communities hard across North East Derbyshire, but it's important to remember that it's facilities like here at the Avenue that provide a lot of protection to communities downstream, and it's really important that we see what we do here and then what else we can do further to make sure that we don't have things like Storm Babette happening here.
So Emma, thank you so much for coming to see the site here. Where I'm stood here, we're about 8 foot above the River Rother. On the day of Storm Babette, I'm 6'6", the level of water would have been over my head. So it just gives you a sense, everything we can see here would have been underwater, and despite that, people were still flooded downstream in Chesterfield. This asset has worked twice this year already, protecting people when they weren't flooded, so it is an incredibly important asset. Just give us a sense from your perspective as to what the government's inherited when it comes to flooding and the approach that you're taking.
Thanks so much for bringing me here, and it is just incredible to think of the amount of water that hit during Storm Babette, and of course I thank all the emergency services involved in it, and my sympathy is everyone impacted. We've inherited flood assets in their worst condition on record, so one of the first things we've had to do as a new government is move some money into maintenance to make sure that the assets we have are up to standard. But we're also investing £2.65 billion into flood defences, looking at improving, repairing and building new flood defences over the next 2 years. But really importantly, and this is where I know areas like yours have struggled, Toby, we're looking at that formula that determines whether or not projects get consented and go ahead. So we're going to do a consultation on that in May, really encourage everyone to get involved in that, and I know that your committee, I'm sure, will be giving evidence to it to make sure that we've got the right formula so that areas aren't missing out where they need support.
Well, that's so important. As we have been discussing today, we have a similar scheme, slightly smaller scheme, that's on the books for the River Hipper, and we're desperately trying to get that to the top of the list. We know it's competing against many other schemes, but that River Hipper scheme would reduce the pressure on the River Rother, would protect those houses and those businesses in Brampton that were flooded last time round. Just give us a sense from your perspective as to what a scheme like this has to do to actually get an opportunity to be brought to life like this one has here on the Rother.
So that's one of the schemes that the Environment Agency are looking at and they are scoping, and because of the recent excessive flooding that we've had with Storm Babette, they're sort of re-evaluating that cost-benefit ratio. It has a large partnership funding gap at the moment, but obviously that's under the old formula. We're yet to work the new formula. But as well as that, I've been having really interesting conversations with the Environment Agency about possible nature-based solutions that could be used as well to support in this area. So there's a need for something. There's work going on to scope what that solution could possibly be.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming. The Environmental Audit Committee was in the Netherlands last week looking at some of the lessons from that country that obviously has had a whole history of being affected by floods. But definitely that nature-based approach alongside sort of engineered solutions like this are going to be crucial to protect communities in Chesterfield in what is going to be an ever greater pressure from climate change.